Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Leonardis. I'm an entrepreneur, wife, mom, and stepmom. I'm super interested in people and perspectives, and I love how a good conversation can leave you feeling empowered. Sometimes even pique your curiosity to learn and grow. Mostly though, I love how really listening to one another opens up limitless opportunities for that beautiful sense of connection and community that we all love. Thanks for tuning in. Let's be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. It's Rebecca here, and I am so thrilled today to be sitting with my dear friend, Jodi Tiller. This woman is a wealth of information, and she is one of the most heart-led women I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. I call her my friend, but she is also known professionally as an MSW, an RSW. She's also the founder of Rebirth Wellness Centre here in London, Ontario, which I had the pleasure of meeting her there. She's a psychotherapist and a mother to the sweetest little guy you could ever imagine. She's so many things on top of all of those labels, and I'm going to let her describe herself to you here in just a moment. Jodi, this podcast was designed to collect the most beautiful people in my life and showcase them in conversations that we would have, sitting around having a cup of coffee together. That's why I'm so glad you said yes to being here with me, because the things we talk about together are things that women in general need to be privy to. We talk about some deep things. We go in a lot of different directions. And I feel like even one conversation with you has the ability to enlighten women from all over the world. So I know that the listeners are in for such a treat today. Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. How are you?
I'm so good. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you. I'm so excited to spend this time with you. You are one of my absolute favorite people. So I always enjoy my conversations with you. So although doing things like this make me really nervous, it was a really quick yes, because it meant being able to spend time with you and have a conversation with you.
Aww.
So yeah.
Oh, you are the best. You are the best. So tell us, for people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, who are just getting a glimpse into you through this conversation, tell us a little bit about yourself. You can go in any direction. You can talk professionally, you can talk personally, wherever you want to carry us, we'll go with you.
For sure. Well, professionally, I've been a psychotherapist for nearly 20 years now. And during that time, I've had the privilege of helping mothers really learn to trust themselves, to build their confidence, and really learn to not only mother their children, but to mother themselves. I really feel strongly that if we can get that part right, as mothers, if we can learn how to mother ourselves with the same love, kindness, and compassion that we give so freely to others, that we have the potential to enjoy motherhood and really thrive in that role. So I'm really lucky that I get to do that every day as a psychotherapist. And then I'm also the owner and operator of a mother-focused health clinic, which is just beautiful in every way. So we have an amazing team of holistic health providers who are also, many of which are mothers themselves. And so we provide a range of services to help women who, become mothers. So lots of fertility, so hoping to conceive, pregnancy, childbirth, adjusting to life with a new baby and beyond. So
I love that. Rebirth Wellness Centre to me is always the place where I felt the pivot in my own life. And I'm so glad that you shared with us a little bit about what Rebirth is and what it has to offer. And when I relate it to my own life, I know without question that it was the place and the point in my life that everything changed. And by that, I mean, prior to knowing you and to knowing Rebirth, I was not involved in the holistic health world really at all. I had just become a new mom and I was craving connection. Being at home is really lovely. There's certain elements are really, really lovely, but being around other people was such an important piece to me. And I remember discovering Rebirth online and knowing that I had to know more about it. And there was one single spot left in one of the classes that I was able to snag. I can remember coming in and paying for it. I had my daughter with me, and walking into the building, I was like, okay, this is good for me. This is so, so good for me. And it was literally where I met some of the most influential people in my life to this day, you being one of those people. It transformed me. It has the ability to do that. If women are ready for it, it has the ability to do that for them. Yeah. It's an awesome space. Awesome space. You've created something like unbelievably awesome there. Jodi, let me ask you, what inspired your professional path?
Well, I was in the early 90s. I was working as a research assistant in the mother-infant attachment lab at the university that I was attending as an undergrad. And I went to university really wanting to focus on, I was studying psychology and really wanting to work with children, which is why I got this job working in the attachment lab. And, while observing mothers and infants day in and day out, I was noticing time and time again how exhausted mothers appeared, overwhelmed, and so uncertain, and we're doing this work because we want infants to have secure attachment, right? To have that beautiful foundation from which to thrive, right? Where they feel safe, secure, protected, and deeply loved in this big world. And we rely on mothers to give them that precious gift, right? And watching mothers, I noticed how uncertain they were feeling, or how lost, right? And then it dawned on me that we're expecting mothers to give their babies something that they might not have been given themselves, right? So how are they to know how to give them this precious gift, right? Because yes, we're focused on the health and well-being of infants and completely ignoring the health and well-being of mothers, the people they rely on the most. And I just had this moment like, this isn't right. something's not right here. And because how can we just expect moms to know? How can we expect moms to know how to mother in a way that their babies deserve to be mothered, right? That because their mothers in our culture aren't being mothered themselves in a way that they deserve. So I quickly changed my focus from working with infants and children to more maternal health and well-being. And once I graduated, I went to my clinical master's degree. And from the moment I graduated until now, my focus has always been on maternal health. I just think the health and well-being of families, the health and well-being of our communities depend on the health and well-being of mothers.
Oh.
And we're such a baby-focused culture, right? Like we have so much of our time and money, our resources are focused on babies, and we just aren't giving the support to mothers that they deserve. So back in the 90s, when I was an undergrad, and I had this idea of creating a gathering place for mothers. Really, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village for mothers need that village too. So I just had this really vague idea of creating a gathering place, a village for mothers, where they can just come together in community to grow, to learn, to share, connect. We're social creatures. We thrive in connection. We need connection. So I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I just knew that it had to have this space where mothers could just come, that was safe, judgment-free, just a place to get the love and support they deserve. And then when I was in private practice as a psychotherapist, again, working with mothers, I was like, okay, I think go to yoga or see this naturopathic physician, or, I think massage. Like I was referring to all these different professionals to really create that circle of support around mothers, to make sure that they, this holistic integrated care, but it wasn't integrated. It was really disjointed. And I was sending moms here, there, and everywhere, trying to pull together this circle of support. And that's when the clarity of Rebirth really took shape. So I was like, we just need to bring all these people together. We need to bring all these healthcare providers together. And that's when Rebirth was born. It was out of that desire to create a holistic health clinic that, with one sole purpose, to help mothers thrive, right? Yeah. Motherhood is hard. I just really wanted to make it easier for moms.
Mission accomplished. That I can say from experience and in knowing so many other women who have leveraged the circle of support that you've created. The evolution of that is so beautiful. I love how, and oftentimes we find ourselves with one intention in life, and then as we observe and take note of what's happening around us, it morphs into something different. And it has obviously led you to this beautiful place. I literally get full body chills when you talk about creating the circle for women, a judgment-free place. And I love the notion of making it simple by bringing everybody into one space, so that, when you're referring out, because it takes a village. It isn't just a silver bullet answer for anything in life, but specifically as it relates to motherhood. And this creation of yours, this safe landing space for women has, has been extraordinary. And then with all of your education and dedication to really understanding the mother's mind and emotional well-being, mental well-being, it's a powerful place to be able to get or gain access to everything that you might need on that journey. Because you said it, mothering can be hard. It's wonderful. It's all the things, right? But we're often not told about the some of the more challenging aspects of it, and that's what you're able to solve for. Love it.
Well, yeah, it's a big shift, right? Because Rebirth is an invitation for mothers to mother themselves and to take care of themselves, which is not the model that we support in this culture of ours, right? We support the self-sacrificing mother, that mothers are good mothers when they focus on the health and well-being of their babies, not themselves, right? That's selfish. So it was an interest from a business perspective. It's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey, right? Because that is such a big shift for moms to make. There's so many barriers to mothers seeking health services for themselves, right? Like there's so many barriers externally, internally. So it really is from a business perspective, as a business model, it's a challenging one. It was something completely new. And of course, the invitation to do all things baby, the sign language classes, whatever fun and amazing things there are to do with babies, the invitation was always there to do that. And I've always resisted, even though it seemed like a much easier way to earn an income to focus on services for babies, right? Because moms will do anything and spend anything on their babies.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Like, the cost of strollers and all the things, but to ask moms to spend time, energy, and money on themselves and their health and well-being was so, and it still is, right? It's still we've come a long way. Mm-hmm. But it's still a challenge for moms to get to that place where they're ready to really invest in themselves. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
You have come a long way too. I mean, that mindset shift has really, it's begun to solidify itself. I mean, Rebirth and what you've created has now been offering services and offering that village for over 10 years now, right? Like
Yeah.
It blows my mind that it's a decade. And the beautiful part of this, you know, if you were looking for the silver lining in what has occurred recently with our, you know, restrictions to access and that kind of thing, Rebirth has now stepped into the world of offering services virtually. So now it's not just about a local community having access to your beautiful offerings, but there's a much greater reach. So many women now can tap into this. And you know, when we get to the end of our conversation, I will definitely make sure everyone knows how to access all of that, because it is something that needs to be it needs to be known. You know, if you are a mother, it's for you. If you know a mother, it's for her. You know, we all know somebody that would benefit from having access to what Rebirth can provide. Now, you specifically, your professional path, and I'm going to speak specifically to your role as a psychotherapist for a moment, and that relationship to the women who are visiting you through Rebirth. Postpartum is something that, as a culture, we are uncomfortable speaking about, and I'm speaking generally. There might be certain circles where this is it's a more talked about thing, but in my experience, postpartum depression is something that is not often talked about, and it really deserves quite a bit of consideration. It deserves conversation, and in your role as a psychotherapist, you are expert in this area. This is what women come to you, and whether they know that's why they're there or not, they have made their way to you to help uncover what the layers of postpartum actually represent for them. I wonder, can I ask you just a few questions on that topic? I wonder, is postpartum depression on the rise right now?
100%. 100%. I think that, well, first off, postpartum depression and anxiety is the most common complication of childbirth. Mm-hmm. So yes, we do need to have the conversations about it, because it is happening too often, right?
Can you like quantify that at all, Jodi? Like what is there like a percentage?
So 1 in 4.
One in four. Okay.
Yeah, are impacted, and not just women, their families, right? It's a family issue. Their families are being impacted by postpartum depression, anxiety. So yes, we need to have the conversations, and yes, especially now, because the pandemic has created the very risk factors for, you know, that lead to and contribute to postpartum depression and anxiety, right? The isolation, the forced isolation that mothers have been experiencing for months on end. You know, we're not meant to mother alone, right? And we're seeing the impact of that, of when we are forced to do that, when we are forced to mother in isolation, there's consequences to that. That's not how mothering is intended to happen. So, certainly the forced isolation, expectations, right? Are the expectations of mothers during the pandemic have skyrocketed, right? They are everything, holding it all together, right, for their families, and yet with like absolutely no support, right? That recipe creates postpartum depression, anxiety, and burnout, right? And mom burnout is a very real thing. The World Health Organization recognizes it as a condition. It's very real. So if not postpartum depression, anxiety, definitely mom burnout, right? Like is that
actually what it's known as, Jodi? Like, is it labeled as such?
Well, burnout. Yeah. And
wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And I think I can't imagine any mother on this planet right now that's not feeling completely exhausted and overwhelmed, right? It's been months of, you know, isolation and mothering in isolation, and also in this climate of anxiety and fear and uncertainty, right? Having babies in the best of times, is hard, right? It's still in the best of times, it's 1 in 4. You know, think about what that is now, right? So yes, it's definitely, mothers have been deeply, deeply impacted by the pandemic.
So knowing that, can I ask you what maybe some recommendations or some advice on what can be done, and maybe how can we spot it in order to put ourselves in a position to be supportive to moms who are experiencing this right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it really has been, we know how valuable support is. And I think right now we just have to be really creative in how we offer that support. I think it's important for moms to know that they're not alone. It may physically feel like, that they're alone, but they're not. It's important they reach out for help and support. I think connecting with a therapist now more than ever is really, really important. I think talking to someone that you know and trust is important. I think it's important for people who know mothers to reach out, offer support, let them know, like, I'm thinking of you, drop off food, skip the dishes delivered, whatever creative ways we can support mothers right now, because they're tired, right? They've and afraid, right? Like, I think of course, mothers all feel this incredible pressure to get it right? They just, to think that they would do anything that may put their baby's health at risk, you just don't, right? So, of course, so many moms are anxious and afraid of COVID and not wanting to make a bad decision that may put their babes at risk. So, they're taking this isolation very seriously and alone all day and night, so I think it's important for family and friends to reach out and connect and feed them, nurture them however they can.
I think I love hearing that. I think those are all great tips and certainly easy enough for all of us to do, right? We all know somebody who's had a baby or is getting ready to have a baby. So let's get prepared alongside them and be able to offer support in a variety of ways. I'm really curious personally about how we would spot this, because here's the thing I know about women, generally speaking, and then moms, when we break it down even further, is that oftentimes you can be tired, and I mean like straight up burnt out. You're giving all the time. And yet when someone checks in with you, you can paint this really pretty picture that everything is just fine and dandy on your end. So what would the average person need to be able to recognize in someone to know that something is off? For me, I know intuitively I can tell. It's usually you're reaching out to someone that you know more intimately. So there's that aspect of it. But is there something more tangible that we would be able to kind of raise a red flag and go, something's not right here. I need to step up a little more.
Right. You're so right. I think a lot of moms feel the need to pretend like they're okay, even when they're not. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of pretending that happens in our culture. It's sometimes the moms that appear to be doing fine and having it all together that worry me the most.
Sure.
Because I'm like, what are you hiding behind all that makeup and So yes, it is hard, but mothers are really good at hiding how they're feeling and really good at saying, I'm fine, even when I'm not, right? I think right now it's pretty safe to assume that most mothers are not fine right now.
That's what I was kind of hoping you'd say. Yeah, it's just, let's just generalize here. They all need an up-leveled amount of support.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's really good to know. So for those of you who are listening and have somebody on your heart right now, as you hear this, don't wait. Don't put it in your calendar to call or text that person tomorrow. Do it. You can listen and do it right now. Keep listening to the podcast, but grab your phone and text that person right now. Send them a heart emoji. Do something that lets them know. One of my favorite things is to send voice notes to people, because text messaging is certainly great. It certainly shows that you're thinking about someone, but when someone hears the voice of someone they can call a friend or as a family member, there's just something deeper about that connection when they hear the voice.
Right.
So yeah, that's certainly something I'm going to spend a little bit of time doing today. I've got two women on my heart right now as we speak. I'm going to do that today. Okay. Jodi, I appreciate all of that. And I know your practice has really exploded recently as a result of the need for this. I know that Rebirth is a place that if any one of us who have been clients of Rebirth were to describe it, there would be so many beautiful adjectives to describe our unique experiences there. But you have created something that's different from everything else. And I wonder how you personally would describe how Rebirth is set apart from other settings designed for women. Do you see Rebirth as a legacy, maybe?
I hope so. I hope it is. That was, I'm when I was a kid, I was the kid at the pool that would just kind of dip the toe in and like never the kid that jumped right in. So the fact that I took this big leap 10 years ago, I think is because of the deep passion that I have and just the change that I wanted to make, because back from that, this isn't right moment in university. So I'm really hoping that that big leap that I took has created a big impact. It, on the everyday level, like I know, like hearing your story and knowing how it's impacted you, like that's enough for me. Like that is, so beautiful. I've had the privilege of hearing stories from I get contacted quite often from other healthcare providers, either from Canada or and beyond. I was speaking with a woman. She's Canadian, but she lives in Australia. She learned about Rebirth through social media and was trying to start a Rebirth-like center in Australia.
Wow.
And I guess I'm just like so focused on the here and now and just what I'm doing each day. I don't really think about the bigger picture and the bigger impact it's having. But it certainly feels good to hear those stories and to know that that change has been created. Because 10 years ago, like even holistic health, like that was there. It wasn't a thing, right? There wasn't a clinic on every corner 10 years ago. I really didn't know. There wasn't a model of care. I was really winging it just most of the time. So the fact that seeing different clinics open and in our city and beyond is really, I'm hoping that Rebirth has inspired them in some way.
Yeah, of course. Like, I mean, you talk about jumping in when there's no framework for something. Just if you're listening right now and you're considering this, like, just think about that. This is something that would be so great, but there's no framework for it. Do you do it? Do you not do it? It would be so easy to not do it. And yet when you dive in head first the way you did, you have not only like I feel certain that the legacy of Rebirth will go on and on and on, but there's no denying the butterfly effect that has happened from your decision. Like the ripples, you've created a framework. So now other people have the courage and the confidence to create something, not the same, but something similar to and inspired by your ambition to offer this circle of support for women. It's a massive impact for women. And now not just in London, Ontario or Canada, but we're talking about the other side of the world. People are experiencing the benefits of this choice to jump in. It's huge. It's huge. I admire that so much.
It's easier to do something when you've seen it, right? Sometimes you have to see it to know that it can be possible, right? So, I'm thinking back 20 years ago when I started focusing on maternal health. Like it just, we weren't talking about it. Like
No.
there weren't services, and the fact now that we have clinics opening that are mother focused clinics, like those gathering spaces are just not everywhere yet, but, we're on that path, and it feels really good. It feels that was the why. So it's nice to see it.
Yeah, to see something like that come to fruition. Absolutely. Now, from a shifting gears just slightly on this, from a psychotherapist perspective, we've talked, we've talked a fair amount about what's been going on this past year, and I'm curious, in your words, how do we heal from what's being described as a really challenging year? And how do we replace the negative emotions with optimism and hope? I know there's no silver bullet for that.
Yeah, I love this question, Rebecca. I love it. And you are such an optimistic person. So I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, because you carry hope for so many. So I want to hear from you. But this is a challenging question for me, to be honest, because it has been a hard year. I have seen how working mothers at home with their babes, how impacted they've been this year. And it's been really heartbreaking to see that, I'm this champion, like, mothers matter. We need to take care of mothers. And then so many decisions that have been made around the pandemic have not at all considered the needs of mothers, right? Like, mothers were still preparing, like, we're having mothers birthing their babies without their partners.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it has been, so this is a good challenge for me to think about the healing and how we're going to move forward, because I am in many ways still very much in the devastation of this year, and still in experience a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
So to shift out of heartache to hope, I think first we have to believe that we will recover, we will heal, right? That it is possible. It will take time, but we will continue to move through this and get to the other side. And I think it's really important to find the magic in this mess. It's been a messy year. It's, so looking at what these challenging times have given us, right? Clearly a level of resiliency and strength and ability to overcome, like, it's really tested the human spirit. And there's finding those moments where we were able to really rise, either individually, rise as a family, as a community. We were really able to help each other and support each other, like really focusing on those aspects of it. I think is important. The pandemic has taken away a lot, for sure. There's a lot of loss this year, but it's also given us a lot. And I think we have to look at not what it has been taken away, but what has been given. It may not be as obvious, but I think maybe once we're out of it too, as we move through it, we might be able to look back like, okay, the hindsight, okay.
That's what I learned from that year.
Yeah. Because that's change, that's growth, that's the awakening, right? Like, we have to be in these dark moments. That's where change happens, right? So change is happening. So I think I'm excited to see.
Yeah. It's that old saying, "This too shall pass," right? We're all moving in a new direction. We're all moving forward. We're all spinning in our own circles, it feels like, but we're all moving forward. I wanted to attach something to that. I have gotten I'm not a super practical person, but this past year has taught me a couple things about looking for hope and looking for optimism. And two things that really stand out in my head are the simplest things that every one of us as women have access to. One of them is taking a 1 minute moment for yourself. And that can be, for me, I'm always using my essential oils, but you don't need to have oils to do this. It is just a moment where either you bow your head or you close your eyes, you get into a comfortable space and maybe you set the timer for 1 minute on your phone. I know you have your phone near you, so just set it for 1 minute, set the timer on it, and allow yourself to just sit and breathe for 1 minute. And as you're doing that, make sure that you're breathing properly. And that's not a difficult thing. It's, it's making sure that your belly is actually rising when you take a breath, that you're not continuing to clench. Because if you need a 1 minute moment, chances are leading up to this moment, you're clenching your gut, which means that you are in a stress situation. Right. Allowing your belly to rise and fall naturally for about a minute. It sounds like the simplest thing to do, and it is, because we have access to it wherever, whenever. And then if you can get good at that for 1 minute, and you can offer yourself another 1 minute moment later in the day, you're beginning to add on to your ability to break the cycle of worry, anxiety, and stress. All of those things, you just break the cycle. And then the other piece is something, again, that I just learned. Well, I mean, I think I've always known it, but it is something that it's really valuable. We often talk about yoga for all kinds of different things, but I'm not suggesting that you invest a whole bunch of time learning yoga, because that takes years and years. I'm saying go Google child's pose, just that one single pose, and put yourself in that pose once or twice a day. Maybe that's when you have your 1 minute of breathing, when you're in that pose. But those two practical pieces I know have served me very well. And if I can do it for 1 minute, it gives me hope that I could do it for 2 minutes. It gives me hope that I can do it for 3 minutes. And you start building the resiliency.
I love that so much. And I'm so glad that you took it to this level, because you're right. For us to heal collectively, we do have to take the responsibility to heal ourselves individually, right? The impact of this climate, the fear and anxiety in this climate has taken its toll, no doubt about it, right? Our nervous systems have been revved up for months, and, elevated cortisol levels for months. And, we need to heal our nervous system. We need to figure out how to feel safe and secure again, right? We need to, because we've been told that we're not safe for many, many months, right? There's this potential threat out there that we can't see, right? And that has had an impact, right? That's this collective trauma of that experience, right? Like, we have been collectively traumatized by this experience, right? And then think about people, and most of us have a history of trauma. So it's been a lot for our minds and our bodies to be processing. And I think that we do need to heal our nervous systems. And we do that through what you were just talking about, right? Through our breath, through movement. We need to, again, it's about restoring that sense of safety. Mm-hmm. We can be in this world and be safe and be okay. And again, we have to do our individual practices that support that healing, and then that ripple effect, right? Then collectively, we can heal collectively. I guess that, yeah.
I love the term, although it has, initially collective trauma sounds like a negative thing, but on the flip side of that, collective healing is like unbelievably powerful to think about. So the solution to collective trauma is collective healing. That gives me just such a jolt of electricity almost, to know that that's within our capabilities if we dedicate even the tiniest little bit of time to our own personal healing. I love this. So that's where we're at as a mothering community in this day and age, right? We're at this point where we need to heal ourselves to heal the collective.
Yeah.
You are such a phenomenal female leader. Like the fact that you put yourself in a position to be able to offer this to other people is extraordinary, first of all, because it's not a comfortable place to be, I imagine. I mean, you've got your resources in terms of your education, in terms of, what you've created at Rebirth, but being a female leader is so much more than that. Like, those are the tangible things. You are this, you have this. but it's an attitude. It's a feeling, and it's a vibe. To you, to be a female leader in these times, what does that actually even mean to you?
It's been challenging because I'm in it too, right? Like, this is what's sort of been interesting as a psychotherapist and as colleagues in my field. Like, we're in it too. We're experiencing the pandemic as well, and all. So it's been really interesting to do the work with people who are, in terms of, and I think that's been challenging as a leader as well, is, working really hard to lift people up and bring people together and hold everyone, right? While, going through this experience personally as well. It has been an interesting challenge, to try to hold it all together for everyone. And certainly being human, having moments where I'm falling apart, right? Where I'm feeling very afraid, and, I'm a mom too. So I worry about the health and well-being of my children and my family. And so, but I think women are especially so incredible, right? I think we're all leaders in some way, right? We're all leaders in some way. I think when we think about leaders, we think of them in a traditional sense, right? In this position of power and, organizational leaders, right? But we are leaders because, we're so heart-centered. There's such passion for everything that we do. We're so resourceful and creative. Where there's a will, there is a way, for women. In fact, we are so determined and resilient and all those things, right? And I think that's what it is to be a leader, right? Is to see a challenge and want to rise, right? And like, we can figure this out, together. And I think that's what it makes really women, because we're such social creatures. We thrive in connections. We want to bring people together to rise together. And that's leadership, right? We don't operate on our own, right? We're not ego-centered. We're not just... That's
so powerful.
Right? We're not taking, like, I didn't take this leap 10 years ago to serve myself, right? There's no ego there. It's to serve others. And I think as women, we are so deeply committed to serving, right? We're hardwired to nurture and to serve. We're socialized to be nurturers, to serve. And I think this is who we are. And I think it's so powerful, so beautiful. And I'm so privileged that I get to play that role that I do with Rebirth. I'm certainly not perfect at it, but
What'd be the fun in that?
Yeah. That's also part of, and just being human, right? I think it's also part of being a leader is allowing yourself to be human and to be seen as human and to not be perfect, right? To not know all the answers. Like, I was doing my best to lead Rebirth through this pandemic, and I didn't always know how. I most of the time I didn't know how, right? It's not like we've ever experienced anything like this before. There's so many unique challenges that Rebirth faced as a business that employs mostly working mothers. So I fumbled a lot through this as a leader this year, more so than usual. But I think that's what women were stubborn. Again, that determination, right?
That's it.
When we are committed to something, there's no stopping us.
Yeah, it's happening. Your willingness to, I love the term. I don't know if he created it or not, but I watched a speech that Denzel Washington gave, and he kept talking about the idea of failing forward. And yet you just, every time you do, if you consider it a failure, you're still moving forward. You learn from the failure, you get up, you rise again. I love when you use the word rise, because that's actually what I picture, is that a woman rising. And although she may fail again, she continues to rise. And it's just this repetitive cycle, but it's always with forward momentum.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. I'm so glad your heart led you here.
Well, it's always a quest to do better. I think that's what's passionate.
Yeah.
There's always this and this strong sense of justice, right? That it can be better. It needs to be better.
Yep.
And I love that. Yeah.
And you acknowledge, I've always loved this about you. You acknowledge that there is more than one path. Pick your path, do the best you can with the decision that you've made. And, if there's some sidestepping that has to happen, then so be it. But that forward momentum is always been part of it. I just love it. I love it. So along that same thread, we talk about the idea of being a female leader. And like I said, that word rise continues to, I associate with that with you so much. Who has been your guiding light or a mentor in your life?
Well, I'm really fortunate because I am surrounded by women. I'm surrounded mostly mothers. Mm-hmm. So they're my mentors. They are who inspire me because I see that strength, that passion, the desire to rise. I see that every day with the clients I'm serving, but also with the colleagues I have the privilege of working with. So yeah, just every day women that I get to work alongside with. So
see, and this is where that's an epic answer, because I think we would have expected you to name, and a lot of times I ask this question to people and these celebrity names pop up, as these sources. And sometimes that doesn't always represent the realness. Like, you are very grounded and understand that realness, and you just see the value in every woman. And that's a powerful thing. You don't look for outside sources. It's right within your circle. And that's a great way to shape your life.
Yeah. It's always right there. Inspiration is always right there. Right.
If we pay attention, yeah, you're right. That's one of the biggest takeaways from this talk is it's always right in front of you. You have to see it. You have to be ready to see it. But it's always right there. I have, in some of my friends circles and whatnot, I've been sharing with them that, if you're really looking to fill yourself with the goodness, stop watching some of the mainstream channels for either your news or, lifestyle advice, all of those kinds of things. Are you someone who indulges in mainstream information, or do you try to keep that at bay because it really serves, I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't serve a purpose, but what sort of influence does that have in your life right now?
We're such consumers. Hey, there's so much available to us.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it can really inspire and sometimes it can really overwhelm. And I think it's important to pay attention to how you're feeling when consuming the information you're consuming. I think when the pandemic hit, I quickly suggested to the team to put some boundaries around the information they were consuming, to be mindful of the time that was spent on their phones and on social media and other news outlets. I think it's important for our mental health and emotional health to put some boundaries around that consumption, because it can be too much, right? I think sometimes there's in media as well, there's just this ideal, right? And I think it's really easy for us to get caught up in striving for this ideal, striving for this sense of to be perfect and to, and I think that can be really dangerous for our mental and emotional health, to idealize, and it can get us into some trouble. So Sorry, someone was just knocking at my door, so I got very distracted.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
It's probably a holiday gift for the boys or something. So they were banging really hard, so it kind of caught me off guard. So sorry about. Kind of got lost on that
sticking with it.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
you totally did. I love asking that of people, because I feel like consumption is often thought of as what you ingest or the food that you're taking in and people that you're associating with. And we don't often recognize that what we're consuming visually through the TV or through social media plays an enormous role on the way we conduct ourselves and the way we are perceiving life around us. So I love that you've shared that. Just be cautious.
Right.
Understand that the realness does not exist in those mainstream outlets, so to speak.
It's so hard because we could always do better. Like there's always more is more, right? We could always do more. We could always give more. We could always be more. It's a practice of this radical acceptance of who you are and where you are, while also trying to create change. The change comes from that, right? We first have to accept where we are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, and then little by little we can create these changes. But I think when it comes to health, there's always so much information and so many different ideas and beliefs about how to be better. Yeah. And it can really make us feel like we're failing, that we're not enough.
Yeah.
Right? That we're not enough as we are. So I think it's tricky.
Acknowledging where we're at is a really great place to start, because we're all already exactly what we need to be.
We're all doing our best. We're all doing our best, and I think, especially now more than ever, I'm a big champion for self-compassion, mindfulness, self-compassion. I think now more than ever, we need to offer ourselves as much compassion as possible, and also, so that we can give compassion to others, because we all are moving through this pandemic in the best way that we can, right? And it's not easy. So we just need to be really kind and loving and compassionate with ourselves and with each other. And we're just doing our best.
Yeah.
What else can you do in life, right? But just show up and with a commitment to do your best.
Oh, yeah. That's it. In a nutshell, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you one more thing. I could talk with you probably for hours and hours, but before we get to how we can be in touch with you and access more of what you have to offer, let me just ask you one last thing, and that is, what is your best advice for creating community, particularly in this time when physical connection isn't necessarily a reality? How do we create community amidst all that's going on?
It's so hard to put it into words. I think obviously inclusivity. I think it's a basic human need to feel loved, to feel worthy, to feel a sense of belonging, right? We all need that sense of belonging. We all want to feel loved and accepted and worthy. So creating community is about, fostering that, honoring that need. By creating a space that is judgment-free, right? That feels safe, inclusive, right? It's accepting of all, this unconditional love, right? No matter, I think for mothers, it's always, at Rebirth, it's always the message, like, you're allowed, it's safe to be just mother in a way that feels right for you. And it's all no matter, all mothering is welcome. Come as you are, right? Come as you are. I really like good vibes only. I'm like, all vibes are welcome at Rebirth. Like because we're human, we're designed to feel it all, so just come as you are. No matter how you show up, you will be loved, you will be accepted, you will belong.
That brings tears to my eyes, because that whole concept, as soon as you said it, I even have a mug. I was just looking to see if I was drinking out of it that says good vibes only, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows every day. And what are you, not welcome in community when you're not in a good mood yourself? That's when you need community most. That's when you crave the connection. That's what supports you in finding your way out of the funk that you're in.
Yeah.
I love that. Come as you are.
Language is powerful. Language is powerful, and it has to be inclusive and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we could talk for hours. Maybe we can chat again and explore some more specific topics. I'm going to put access to you in our show notes for sure, but can you share with us some of the key ways that we can find you, either through Rebirth or any of the other work that you're doing right now? How can we tap into more of you?
Yes. Well, rebirth.ca is our website there. It has all the information regarding our services, our team. There's information around the counseling services that I provide along with my other colleagues. We have an amazing mental health team at Rebirth. Obviously, we're on Facebook and Instagram. It's Rebirth Wellness is the handle. I think that's
all the main playgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so check Jodi and her team at Rebirth out at rebirth.ca. Check out Facebook, on Instagram. Wherever you like to hang out, you're very likely to find them there. And they've got some beautiful, beautiful services, inspiration that can be found and felt, furthermore, even through the website. And that's a tricky thing to do. You definitely feel the warmth of the community that has been created there. So I highly recommend that you run, not walk, to to finding out more information right away on this, because it will serve you very, very well. And pass it on to another mom that you know. Let her in on this. We have to share the goodness. You know, I say this a lot, you don't know what you don't know. And then when you do know something, it's kind of your responsibility to share that out with other people. Mm-hmm. So now you know about Rebirth, you know about Jodi, you need to tag somebody in a post, you need to share the link to the website. This is how we create community and inclusivity for all of our friends and women beyond our friend group. So Jodi, I can't thank you enough for being part of the conversation today. You are such a guiding light, powerful female leader, someone who's not afraid. You might have been dipping your toe in when you were a kid, but you're a head firster now for sure. You keep jumping into the deep end head first. And you know what? We're all so appreciative of it, because you give us the courage and the confidence to know that these things are possible. We've seen you do it, so now we know that we can do it too. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm so glad that you're creating this space for conversation. You're doing something that you are so good at.
Thanks. I like to talk.
So it was an absolute pleasure. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. We'll connect again real soon. Thank you, Jodi.
Thanks.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode, friends. Thank you for hanging out with us here at the Planting Wildflowers podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. And in the meantime, if you would be so kind as to rate, subscribe, and share this podcast with others, I'd be most grateful. We'll catch you again soon. Until then, take good care.